Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited, and I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call. I don't know how long this call is going to be today. There's a lot going on here, but I'll just play it by ear and see how things go. First, by way of disclaimer, Trusts Unlimited is not the purveyor of the dinar and these other pre-valued currencies. We're not advocating either the sale or purchase of these currencies, but as rather substantial currency holders ourselves, we're sharing with you the information we believe to be most relevant. Of course, what we're most interested in is the window for the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar. I continue to believe that the backstop would be January, meaning that, in my opinion, it may well wait until January. I cannot see it going beyond that. That does not mean that the reinstitution will not occur before then. I just don't see how it can be held beyond January of 2023. So in any event, worst case scenario, we're in pretty good shape and this thing should be over shortly. So let's go ahead and discuss what's going on in Iraq. And there is a lot going on. Prime Minister Soudani and Governor of the CBI Iraq seem to be on a mission to complete the monetary reform this year. That's what they promised. And they're making their best effort, in my opinion, to do that. I want to start first by mentioning that as part of the process, and there's a lot going on, was the creation of the Adam Smith Foundation to establish the new banking system. Now, I found that to be very interesting. Adam Smith was kind of an interesting individual. He was an 18th century Scotsman. He was a key figure in the Scotch Enlightenment period. He's considered to be the father of modern economics and capitalism. You may remember, I guess it's been 20 years ago, Russell Crowe, the actor, played an individual by the name of John Nash in the movie A Beautiful Mind. John Nash, of course, was an actual person who had been a Nobel laureate, and he received his Nobel Prize utilizing the thesis of Adam Smith. So I just find it incredible that an Islamic Mideastern Arab nation in the process of economic reforms is using a Scotsman, Nobel Prize winning Scotsman and economist to establish a foundation to reestablish and create a new banking system. I just thought that was pretty interesting. But anyway, I digress. Back to Soudani and Iraq. There's a lot going on. They have closed corrupt banks and scheduling a relicensing for those banks once they're in compliance with the monetary reform. They are opening the exchange centers, and of course, the purpose here is for the citizens of Iraq to exchange the 3-0 provisional currency for the new category small notes. And of course, this substantially reduces the money supply, which of course deals with the inflationary issue. Membership with the IMF is on the cusp. I expect we're going to hear about that formally very shortly. They're also in the process of a population census, which in my opinion is the precursor for the release of the HCL. And of course, the HCL is meaningless without a new exchange rate. We also have implementation of the new development or Belt Road Initiative. This is the old trade route from the east to the west, and Iraq geographically happens to be the gateway between the east and the west. So, it just keeps getting better and better for Iraq. All of these things are working in concert. They're all moving forward. I continue to believe that Soudani and Iraq want this thing done this year. Now, if they get all of this done this year, that doesn't necessarily mean that we'll see a change in the exchange rate before January, but we certainly could. And, of course, Sudani and Alak publicly discussed the float of the IQD on the Forex. And here's where, in my opinion, this thing is over. Iraq is involved in currency swaps with other nations. Iraq is a partner and participant in multiple international contracts for the rebuilding of Iraq. Iraq, of course, is central to the development or Belt Road project. So, in my opinion, the only way all of these other nations, all of these other NGOs, all of these other individuals are involved in these contracts, unless Iraq is already operating with a new undisclosed exchange rate. They simply do not have the USD to fund the balance of their 3-year budget, the 2025 budget, and all of these contracts in USD. They simply can't do it. And as a matter of fact, they are using a lot of that money to purchase gold for their reserves. So mathematically, for me, I don't see how a new exchange rate cannot happen by January, if not sooner. And it's really no more complicated than that. So that's where we are now. They've absolutely reached the point of no return, and it's January or sooner. But there's something else going on for we Americans. We have a presidential election coming up on November 5th. It's, every 4 years they say this is the most important election in history or in our life or in recent memory. But this election actually is, because we have someone going hard right, we have someone going hard left. And I want to mention briefly what our brethren in the Democratic Party, in the person of their candidate, have basically told us they're going to do. They want to raise the top marginal tax bracket to 70%. They want to raise the short-term cap gain rate to 44%, which is basically higher than what the current top bracket is for our income tax. They want to raise long-term cap gains to 25%. They want to raise the corporate tax to 28%. And remember, there's no such thing as a corporate tax. It's a pass-through. The consumer pays the tax. They increase the corporate tax, that necessarily increases the cost of all goods and services, which is inflationary. These people, they're either idiots or they really don't like us. And they want to tax unrealized capital gains. That's a killer. If this were to happen, if these new tax rates and tax policies were implemented, they would literally confiscate the wealth of the middle class that they propose to want to save. The plan is to take it from us and give it back to us through things like $25,000 for a new home purchase, forgiving all of your college loans. Of course, all of those gifts that they're giving you aren't coming from them. They're coming from the taxpayer. They're basically putting their hand in your left pocket, taking the money, and then putting it back in your right pocket, and they want you to thank them for it. So it's not only frustrating, frankly, it's insulting. I don't think it's going to fly, though. I really don't. I will mention one other thing, though. One of the advantages of an irrevocable trust package like ours is there are certain tax carve-outs for cap gains. So in addition to all the other benefits that I will be discussing shortly, there are also tax benefits, income tax and capital gain tax benefits by establishing irrevocable trust packages. And that's pretty much what I wanted to discuss for today. I know it was a short call, but this is where we find ourselves right now. Everything's moving in the right direction. All of the people that are trying to stop this, at best, they might be able to postpone it, but they're not going to be able to stop it. This train is coming down the tracks, and anyone standing in the way is going to get hurt. And From my perspective, that's the way it should be. I want to mention briefly the benefits of our family asset protection trust package, especially in this election year, because while the environment is going to be completely different depending upon who's elected, you're still going to be able to protect yourself. Because despite their best efforts of the left, the Constitution and particularly the Bill of Rights remain untouched. They're doing their best to undercut it, and I will get into that. But I want to discuss the benefits of our package. But actually, before I do that, let me go ahead and mention some of the things that the left has in store for us. They operate under the mantra of saving our democracy. Of course, we're not a democracy. We're a constitutional representative republic, and that's what they don't like. So when they say our democracy, they're talking about the one-party social democracy that they're trying to create. It's a little bit of a word trick they use. It's called neurolinguistic programming. It's a process whereby they say something meaning one thing, but knowing you take it to mean something else. So again, when they say saving our democracy, we're not a democracy. They're trying to create one, and they're trying to save it because they're losing, and that's good news. So here are some of the things they want to do. They want to stack the Supreme Court. Why? Because they don't control it. They want to end the Electoral College. Why? Because they can't win elections with the Electoral College. It's interesting that they don't like the Electoral College. Basically, what the Electoral College is, and I'll keep it simple, is elections for the President of the United States are done through the vote, the popular vote, and the states. And for some reason, they have a problem with that. Now, the popular vote, the individuals, the people of this country, the citizens of this country are represented in the House of Representatives. And the states are represented in the Senate. Every law that passes in this country must pass both the House and the Senate. So if every law must be passed by the people in the states, why shouldn't the election of the President of the United States be done through the election of the people and the states? Well, the answer is it should, but it's an impediment to the left. They also want to end the Senate filibuster. What is that? The Senate filibuster is the protection of the minority. As the founders would say, the People's House operates often on emotion. But what quells the emotion is the Senate. And in the Senate, you don't need just one extra vote, a majority to pass a law. You need a supermajority. You need 60, not supermajority, but you need 60. So that means 40 of the states can simply continue to debate and try to persuade the others to change their mind. It's called a filibuster. They want to end the filibuster, which ends all minority rights in the Senate. They also want to increase their numbers by opening our borders and allowing non-citizens to vote. This is how they think they'll get a supermajority in the House. All of these things are unconstitutional, extra-constitutional, but they're trying to save the social democracy they're trying to create, and they're losing ground. Let's look at some of the things that they want to do to our Bill of Rights. Now remember, the Bill of Rights are the inalienable rights that exist by virtue of the fact that we are human beings. We all enjoy these rights by virtue of our existence. But the left says that the problem with the Bill of Rights is that it limits government. Well, of course, that's precisely the point. So the left wants to amend or revoke the First Amendment, the right to free speech. It's a dehumanizing idea. The difference between a human being and all other creatures on this planet is we're capable of abstract thought. But what is the purpose and value of abstract thought if we can't express it? They don't want that. They want us to express what's in the box, what they have determined is acceptable speech. Everything else must not be uttered. So they want to revoke or amend the First Amendment. They absolutely want to revoke your Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. The only right within the Bill of Rights that ends with shall not be infringed. There have been more attempts to amend or revoke the Second Amendment than all of the others combined. That's because the left knows that our right to defend ourselves is the key to the protection of all the other rights. I won't say they want to end the Fourth Amendment, but they certainly want to intrude upon it. The best example is their central bank digital currency. By creating this central bank digital currency, they're going to grant themselves the right to monitor our purchases. From my perspective, I don't care whether I purchase a stick of gum or an AR-15. It's none of their damn business. But they want to make it their business. Fifth Amendment right to due process. Well, we know, just watching what's going on with Donald Trump, that that's out the window. There is no due process. They just make it up as they go along. And, of course, the 10th Amendment right to states' rights. Decentralization of government, federalism. They want to centralize everything. They want to control everything. This is one of the reasons why they like the EVs, not because they're better vehicles or they're better for the planet or they're least expensive. It's because it's centralized. They control it. They don't control the oil industry. The best they can do is try to tax it, but they can't control it. They need something with control. Electricity, they think they can control. So these are the things that we're facing. Now, whether you're a denarian or not, the best thing an American citizen can do is establish some mechanism to help protect the rights that they enjoy through our Bill of Rights. Remember, these aren't rights that the government created and granted. These are rights that exist by virtue of the fact that we are living, breathing human beings, rights that the federal government or any government can take from us. But that's what they're trying to do. But when you establish our Family Asset Protection Trust, whether you have currencies or not, you're protecting the privacy and your anonymity. When you create this package, you will be able to avoid personal IRS scrutiny because the activities are going to be occurring within the trust. You are the beneficiary of what's occurring within that trust. And there are certain cap gain exclusions available to you only through the establishment of a package of irrevocable trusts. Then there's the gifting. Of course, if you have currencies, you can gift them to friends and family to avoid the federal gift tax by gifting them pre-RV. But if you've established this trust, you will not only be able to gift currencies to family and friends and avoid the gift tax, you will be able to do so through a gift sub-trust within this package and control the post-RV proceeds. Now, for most individuals, you may not want to do that. But if you're gifting currencies to children, disabled individuals, to be honest with you, and I've discussed this with clients, people that have children that have had drug problems or other legal problems or for whatever reason are incapable or irresponsible, you want to gift them the currencies, but you know that they can't manage the lump sum. But if you gift it through the sub-trust, you control the post-RV proceeds. This trust will also allow you to avoid the cost and delay of probate and a federal estate tax, meaning when you pass away and your estate is within this trust, there is no probate, there is no public disclosure of your estate, no one knows what you have, who your heirs are, and how much they each stand to inherit. In addition, through utilization of this trust, you're going to be able to avoid the federal estate tax. The federal estate tax, the tax to transfer your estate to heirs, can be as high as 65% of the entire estate in excess of $12 million. Lastly, there are certain asset protection benefits in this trust that can only be accomplished through the trust. Pre-RV, this trust will allow you to avoid something called the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act. Very simply, this is how it works. You purchase 10 million dinar for $10,000, transfer the currencies to the trust. They subsequently revalue, and let's say conservatively, for $1. Now you have 10 million in trust. Can you be sued for 10 million? No. Why? Because the currencies were only worth $10,000 when you transferred them out of title to the trust. Post-RV, there's a benefit I like to refer to as limited liability stop loss. This protects you from future bad acts after you've acquired this wealth. This protection is accomplished through a legal strategy called segregation of assets, meaning that as you purchase homes, cars, boats, etc., you place each of these items in their own separate subtrust, which under the law are separate legal entities or persons. How does this protect you? Well, very quickly, let's say you purchase a new car through the trust. You have an accident. The accident is your fault, and the individuals that were injured want to sue you. Well, the only thing they can go after is the trust that owns the car. And the only thing in that trust is the car and the car insurance policy. All of your other assets are within the other separate sub-trusts, which under the law are separate legal entities or persons having nothing whatsoever to do with the accident. So this trust package, and I like this example, work very much the way a commercial barge would work, where all of the cargo is stored in a series of small compartments. Why? If any compartment is ever breached, the cargo in the other compartments is safe and secure due to the firewalls, and the barge will never sink. Now, these benefits are lost to you from the perspective of a denarian if you do not establish the trust package prior to the revaluation of these currencies. But the benefits of this trust package might be lost to an American citizen if they do not set up the trust before an administration takes power and changes the laws. If this trust is established prior to that, you are grandfathered in. But if you wait until after the wrong people are installed in our federal government who subsequently change the laws about the benefits of these trusts, they are lost to you as well. So whether you're a denarian or not, it's a real good idea to protect your wealth, your family, and your heirs by establishing such a trust package, placing your wealth in that trust package, and to the best of your ability, protecting your wealth, irrespective of who wins in an election year. Now, this trust package is initially a package of 10 trusts consisting of one master trust that will hold assigned currencies and financial assets, pre-RV, and then financial assets like bank accounts and investment accounts post-RV. One optional gift subtrust, which again you would only establish if you were gifting currencies to family and friends and wanted to control the post-RV proceeds, and then 8 additional standard subtrusts to hold homes, cars, boats, etc. One second here. I'm trying to grab something real quick that I wanted to mention. Oh, by the way, you can add additional subtrusts post-RV, but we just initially established those 8. Now, this trust package was initially a rather sophisticated trust package that we've utilized in the past for our more affluent clients, a package that had an initial cost of anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000. But by simplifying the package pre-RV and mass marketing it to denarians, we've been able to reduce the cost to $3,000. There are several ways you can pay for that. Pay us up front. We'll discount the price further to $2,500, saving you an additional $500. If that's not possible, then we have a deferred payment arrangement. You'd make an initial payment of $525, which basically would offset our out-of-pocket costs just to produce and deliver your trust package to you. The balance of the $3,000 would then be paid in $100 monthly installments. The only proviso is once the Iraqi dinar revalues globally, any unpaid balance would need to be paid within 30 days. So with the deferred payment arrangement, even if you can't afford to pay the thing up front, you still get all of the same benefits and you're protected. I'm thinking here, there's a couple of other things I wanted to mention about this election, but I'm kind of on the fence whether to discuss them. It's no secret that that I'm not a supporter of the Democratic candidate, aside from the fact that I basically don't agree with any of her stated policies. They seem to change on almost a daily basis. I've worked with a lot of people over my lifetime. This ain't my first rodeo, and my considered judgment is she's got the IQ of room temperature. So that's not the right person to be the most powerful person in the world, certainly not the person making decisions about me and my family. So that's where I'm coming from, and that's as charitable as I can be with regard to her candidacy, her history, her track record, and her abysmal performances recently when asked this. It's not even softball, it's t-ball, and she can't answer these questions. It's an embarrassment to the country, but that's just my opinion. I think we're going to go ahead and go to a little brief Q&A here today. I wasn't planning on that, but I got through this kind of quickly. So let's go ahead and hit the Q&A. And while I'm waiting for any potential questions, if the things we've discussed are of interest to you, I strongly suggest you get our initial no obligation package. You're under no obligation whatsoever by getting the package. It has a lot of information about us, about the trusts, currencies, how all of this works. You can review the package, contact us if you have any questions. We'll be happy to help you. And everything you need is included in the package if you wish to proceed. You can contact us by email, which is trusts with an S, unlimited LLC @gmail.com. That's trusts with an S, unlimited LLC @gmail.com, or our phone service, which is 307-274-4122. That's 307-274-4122. Okay, we have a caller here in the queue. This is area code 301. That's 301. Go ahead.
Hi, Jim. It's Larry from Maryland.
Yes,
I'm wondering if you could review, I know you've talked about this before, but with the 3 zeros and the people outside of Iraq, Americans, we seem to be entitled to exchange them. The difference, why the Iraqis can't do that, why they couldn't just come across to America or any other country and exchange the same way we are supposed to be.
Okay, the simplest explanation. In country, the creation of the provisional 3-0 currency was necessary because of the hyperinflation in the country post-Saddam. So in country, when individuals go to the exchange centers or the banks with the provisional 3-0 currencies that they've been hoarding, they will be exchanged for the new small category notes, and this will reduce the money supply in country. This will eliminate the inflation in country. We, however, whether we are hedge funds, central banks, or individuals, we purchased the provisional 3-0 currencies in order to assist Iraq to get out of the problem they had, again, post-Saddam. So our possession of that currency outside of the country does not affect their economy, but it does affect ours. Because when we go to the bank to exchange our provisional 3-0 currency, they will recognize those 3 zeros when they exchange into our currency. But again, exchanging our 1 million provisional 3-0 Iraqi dinar in American bank in exchange for, let's say, $3 million US, that doesn't affect Iraq. It will affect our country, but this was the price to be paid in order to assist the nation. Now, what will our central bank do with the provisional 3-0 currency they now hold? Are they going to hold it as a reserve? Are they going to go back to the CBI of Iraq and work out a rather attractive arrangement for the retirement of the 3 zeros. They could do probably both, one or the other, or both. But by then, you and I are going to be out of the game. We'll have waited all of these years. We'll have exchanged our currencies, and we'll be utilizing our USD to do the things that we want. Now, having said all of that, and this is, again, my opinion, I think the U.S. dollar is in trouble for a number of reasons. I don't want to get into the reasons. So if I had $1 million dinar and I went to the bank and I got 3.25 million USD for it, I would get that money I would already have a plan to get that money out of the bank. And to the extent that I got it out of the bank, I would have the lion's share of that money in tangible assets and out of financial assets, out of the banks, out of the stock market, into real estate, metals, all kinds of other things. We've discussed some of those on our call. But that's basically the difference. An American citizen is going to be treated different than a citizen of Iraq.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, certainly. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Well, that was our only caller for today. That's not ordinarily the case, but that's fine. And I got so much going on over here, so I can get back on the treadmill here and get back to work. But I'd like to thank all of you for taking time to listen to this call. Our next call is scheduled for next Wednesday. Certainly, if something of dramatic nature were to happen between now and then, we'll try to get out an emergency email and schedule an emergency conference call. But failing that, we'll be back next Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Thanks so much for listening, everyone, and have a great week. Bye-bye now.